Hey everybody, welcome to Travel Tuesday, part of the Beard Bros Media Network at the intersection of culture and industry. I'm your host, Brian Applegarth, creator of the Cannabis Trail and owner of Applegarth Strategies. We're an agency that specializes in the cannabis travel audience, specifically visitor economy strategies and marketing services for cannabis and hemp brands. Whether you're a seasoned cannabis professional or just starting out, you're sure to find something of value here on Travel Tuesday in the Beard Bros Media Network. So let's get started. I'm really excited about our guest for this episode. Whether you're a seasoned cannabis professional or for this Travel Tuesday episode, I'm interviewing the true leader of the modern day cannabis hospitality experience, Arend Richard. Arend is the visionary behind Cirrus Social Club in Denver, Colorado. He's a Colorado native, and his professional journey in the hospitality industry began when he was an award-winning service manager. Arend launched WeedTube in 2019, creating the world's largest cannabis-focused social media platform with over 6 million users. And then building on that success in digital media, Arend has since shifted his focus to the cannabis hospitality sector with the development of Cirrus Social Club. Cirrus is the first venue of its kind designed to promote a premium cannabis consumption experience. With $2.3 million in funding secured, Cirrus is positioned to capitalize on Colorado's progressive cannabis laws and offer a unique blend of education and entertainment for both novices to cannabis and experienced consumers. And this venture really reflects Arend's commitment to creating industry-leading, socially responsible businesses that elevate Colorado's reputation on the global stage. Arend, welcome to Travel Tuesday. Thanks for being here. Anything else you want to add to that intro right out of the gate?
Yeah, Brian, thank you so much for having me. I think the only thing I would add to that intro is that I'm excited to share, this will be the first time I'm saying this publicly, that Cirrus is looking at opening in January of 2025. So it's right around the corner.
Very exciting. What a milestone. It's been amazing watching your journey through this, Arend. We're really excited to dive in. So let's start with your personal journey and your background. You've had an incredibly interesting life as a journalist or as an author, as well as building, of course, WeedTube, and now you have Cirrus, a lot of groundbreaking things. Why don't you share with the audience how your personal life experience has influenced your vision for Cirrus Social Club?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I would say my last company, WeedTube, I had so much fun with that. It was such an incredible opportunity, but it was, it was managing the desires of all of these users, of all of the content creators, millions of opinions, trying to keep everyone happy. It was a fun and interesting and exciting, fast-paced journey. I would say with Cirrus, it's all me. Like if you cut me open, I would bleed Cirrus. And it's really exciting to be putting my heart and soul into this. I grew up as a kid with an eye for the finer things, interior design. I remember 6 years old, and my family was like, "You want a basketball for Christmas?" And I was like, "No, I want paint to paint my rooms and curtains to match it." And they were like, "That's not what a 6-year-old's supposed to want." So there's that element, and of course, cannabis has changed my life. So being able to bring cannabis to this new type of environment and really hopefully cause even more of a perception shift about what cannabis is really exciting for me.
Where did the name Cirrus Social Club come from? What was the inspiration?
Yeah, it came from being on the phone with some really creative, great friends of mine for a few hours, smoking a bunch of weed, saying a bunch of names and random words. And I think, we were talking about clouds, and we were just looking at different types of clouds. And the minute someone said Cirrus, one of my good friends, Josh Martin, who is a branding genius, lives in Canada, has done some great work. The minute somebody said the word Cirrus, he said, "Name, we're done. That's perfect. Wrap it up."
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the journey thus far, first off, when do you look back at a date where you really jumped in and started this journey? And what are some of the key challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I would say there was a lot of months leading up to this date, but August 1st, 2022 was when I signed the lease on the building that we selected. It was probably 3 or 4 months of hunting for the real estate, a lot of ideation before that point, and work had gone into the framework of how we were going to do things. But, the journey of Cirrus really started with me walking into this 8,600 square foot building in Denver and at first looking at it and saying, this isn't going to work. Let's go look at something else. And then the owner of the building said, hey, come here. I want to show you something. And there was this hideous drop tile ceiling from the 1980s that had been installed. So it didn't seem special. I couldn't see anything with it. And he got up on a ladder, popped out 2 of the drop ceiling tiles and said, hey, climb up this ladder and go look up there. And so I got up there and he hands me a flashlight and I'm looking around and it is this gorgeous, like 40-foot tall vaulted ceiling that is like a big, beautiful dome over this whole space. And I said, okay, this will work. And that was really when we started to figure out what Cirrus was going to be.
I love it. I mean, even in your intro, like talking about place, destination, right? Like Colorado, in real estate, location, especially being part of the tourism economy. Tell us a little bit more about where this building sits in Denver.
Yeah, it's at 3200 East Colfax Avenue. Colfax is, of course, the longest continuous street in the whole country. So that could, people who aren't from Denver could be like, that could be anywhere. Where we sit is right between City Park and Cherry Creek on Colfax in a called the Bluebird District, which is right across from the Bluebird Theater. And I'm really excited about this area. It was a huge pop-in nightlife kind of area. COVID hit it pretty hard. It's been bouncing back quite a bit. So we have an old hotel from the 1950s that just broke ground on a $20 million renovation 2 blocks to the west of us. We have another hotel about 4 blocks around the corner to the east of us that is doing the same thing. And we have new restaurants coming up in the space. It's a really exciting time to be part of this district called the Bluebird District, where a lot of investment is going in to create this new entertainment corridor.
Awesome. It's like a destination within a destination, right? For Denver. Incredible. And you notice the hotels, right? So you're talking about this kind of hospitality location. And This is what I get excited about is I feel like your vision and focus, when I look at people innovating in cannabis with consumption spaces, your hospitality down to the location, understanding the hotel development near you, it all just plays into this new experience economy that's happening. So Absolutely. when you looked at that dome, can you talk a little bit about what that moment meant when it comes to curating a setting for the vision that you had for Cirrus or you have for Cirrus?
Yeah, when I looked at the dome, I was immediately, I said, this is it. First of all, when we pulled up, I was like, this is a great location. If the building's good, this is going to be awesome. And we went inside and I had that moment and I was like, wow, this is the space. And then I got off the ladder and looked around and I said, okay, this is 8,600 square feet. And it's not a cheap lease. It's like a good piece of property. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, we're going to have to create something that is going to get the largest amount of people in here every single day. Up until that point, I was toying around with different concepts, like something local that's just like, maybe 2,000 square feet, has local people coming in. I toyed with a bunch of different concepts, and the idea for Cirrus and what it was didn't come until I leased that space. And I said, how are we going to fill this space with 120 people every 2 hours on a Friday and Saturday night so that we can make the kind of money we need to sustain a business like this? And that's really when Cirrus was born of the circumstances, I would say.
Right. So it sounds like the actual piece of real estate really played into guiding the vision and the inspiration.
100%. There's an alternate timeline in which I'm opening a cute little local bar,
Yeah. Okay, let's pivot for 1 second and talk about customer safety. Responsibility. How are you approaching a safety strategy regarding THC consumption for Cirrus?
Well, I'll be honest, and I don't mean this with any disrespect to anyone out there in the world who's in hospitality, but I feel like I'm the only person who's even considering it. I think most lounges that have opened so far, and again, I'm not trying to be rude about anybody or say anything specific, but the idea is kind of like come in and do whatever you want. And it's for stoners, and they don't pivot towards being welcoming to outside of the stoner community, which I'm a member of. I've been in the stoner world for 12 years. I threw the first ever gay stoner bash in the world at Tetra back in 2017, and we had hundreds of people attend. So I'm very much part of that culture as well, and I get it. But I think, the consideration of how do we make sure people are safe, up until recently, the answer from the industry has always been, well, they're adults, they're responsible for themselves. But now we're kind of getting into this world of, restaurant and bar operators, if someone leaves their establishment and gets in an accident and they were overserved at the restaurant or bar they were at, there's liability in a lot of places for those owners. So you really have to consider it. For us, I think our approach to service is so low and slow. I'm huge for, again, if we're targeting first-time consumers, irregular consumers, I'm huge on making available low THC potency products. It doesn't mean bad flower. For a lot of the industry, low potency equals bad. I don't feel that way. I feel like you can have a very quality plant with great notes and great smells that maybe doesn't test super high, but is still great quality. And just approaching it from as low and slow as we can possibly go with first timers, and with sophisticated stoners, as we call them, people who love to get high, we have opportunities for them as well. One of the things we do, the first thing the flight attendant, which is our server, asks the table is, what's everyone's tolerance level on a 1 to 5? And we have a branded scale of 1 to 5 and what that would mean. From understanding what that person's tolerance level is, the flight attendant is able to guide them through their experience much easier.
Amazing. What about, how are you approaching inhalation versus non-inhalation consumers that are looking for that solution or that experience?
Yeah. We have both options. So very excited to be doing, infused fast-acting beverage line of, we're still working on this, to be honest with you. I'm sure you're no stranger, Brian, to in legal states that have forced out hemp derived beverages. There's a huge gap in the market for it. The dispensaries and makers don't believe that people want to purchase them. But now that we're opening these types of environments, a drink with 2.5 to 5 milligrams is really what we're looking for. So right now it's a mixed mocktail approach using like infused simple syrups and things like that. Hopefully, as time goes on, we can work with brands who are creating beverages that people could see having in their own fridge from having an experience by hospitality.
Excellent.
And we have smoking too. No joints, no blunts at Cirrus, but we have glass consumption. Volcano bags are our big thing.
Interesting. So you're really leaning into, that ancillary curation of different tools and devices seems like it's built into the Cirrus experience then, if there's no joints or blunts allowed.
Absolutely. We've got everything for you to try. Volcano bags too, it's vapor. I think when a lot of people think vapor, they think of a vape pen, which that's still combustion. A volcano bag, there's no combustion involved. It's very light. It's probably the best way that you can consume cannabis via inhalation. And we're working on the way we utilize and display them to make them kind of our own and really unique. But so far in all of our private events, we've served over 500 guests now. The volcano bag is by far the favorite.
That's great. So let's actually take a second here and walk through from arrival to departure, at least as it stands today, what the vision is for the guest experience at Cirrus.
I would love to tell you, Brian. I can tell you a little bit, but I do want to keep it secret until people get to come experience it for themselves. But what you can experience from arrival to departure is being greeted with friendly service at every turn, kindness and friendly service. You can also expect a gorgeous ambiance. I personally believe that weed loves to be around beautiful things. For example, like if I was to open a mushroom lounge, I probably wouldn't put crystal chandeliers everywhere and make it really pretty. I'd probably put you in like trees or something. But weed loves to be around pretty things. So the environment has really been catered towards making a beautiful and glamorous environment that anywhere you're looking, there's something for your eyes to fall upon that feels good. You can expect quality cannabis. You can expect delicious and unique food and beverage offerings that are a way for us to extend the brand where cannabis isn't welcome. For example, we were at Denver Food and Wine a few weeks ago. We served over 1,000 bites from our menu. People really enjoyed what we brought. We had hundreds of people joining our guest list that day. So the food and beverage alone is going to be a really exciting moment, I think.
Absolutely. I would like to share, hold on a second. Actually, never mind. We'll include a couple of photos when we post this and post edit, but we have a couple of visuals that, show a few different rooms. And I wanted to ask you about those two rooms. One is the rose room. So I see long tables, two beautiful chandeliers, chairs. It's almost like community style seating. I also see a bar in back with the lighting is epic. So talk to me a little bit about the Rose Room, and I'm looking at this photo now. Again, we'll share this with the audience when we post this. Tell me about the Rose Room experience.
Yeah, the Rose Room is our private event space. It seats 50 people, 70 people standing. There are those communal table aspects. It's really intended to be like for groups doing things. There's also individual seating along all of the walls as well. One of the ways I see the Rose Room being utilized, and I'm really excited about this, because people ask us if we can do their wedding there. And of course, we're open to all of those discussions. But what I think it's really perfect for is for a rehearsal dinner for a wedding party. And you get all of your family and friends together, adult family members and friends, and you come together for this rehearsal dinner. You sesh together. There's no hangover for the wedding. It's this beautiful environment. We actually have a wonderful idea for a group activation activity that would really get the family working together and having fun while they're consuming. But it can be used for so many different things. And I'm so excited to see the Rose Room. It's sort of as far as the business goes, it's sort of like a secondary piece of what we do, but it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah. I mean, and a big part of travel and tourism is the business groups, meetings, and conferences space. Right. Yep. So there's dedicated conferences in the global tourism industry. 1 out of 10 jobs around the world is in travel tourism. Right. And this group meetings and conferences space, I constantly think about cannabis as a tool and a catalyst to any kind of creativity, brainstorming, strategic road mapping. Do you see the potential of offering this and evolving and offering a space where it highlights that intersection of kind of the more formal side of that sector of the tourism industry?
Absolutely. We already have group menus worked out for things like that. Just from a functionality of the business perspective, catering to a room of 50 people, having a specific 4-item menu that we're making extras of so that we can cater to that group all at the same time. Just from that hospitality business angle of being able to take care of that group. And I think it's going to be perfect for that. I can't wait to see what types of unique opportunities come through.
When, if I was booking a group meeting here, are there inhalation, non-inhalation? Can you set the setting in a way that accommodates the group from a menu point of view? Yeah,
absolutely. And then we also have a private room that seats 15 people. And that we could set it for either one. I think with the main lounge, it's always going to be unless it's like someone's buying out the menu for an event, which sounds great. Let us know if you want to. We know how much that will cost you. But in that area, it's sort of driven to our members and wait lists. So it's kind of hard to control what would be happening in there. But in the private room, in the Rose Room, we can set it up for either.
Awesome. So you have two kind of private options. That's great.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the food. I mean, some of the images that you provided show these beautiful kind of tapas or spreads. How are you approaching the food side of this?
It's all tapas, shared plates. I hesitate to say tapas because I don't mean specifically Spanish tapas, but it's all shareable plates of food with a whimsical touch. It's there's a hint of nostalgia in everything that we do.
Excellent. Great. So let's move on to the smoking lounge, the main room, as you referred to as. I see a gorgeous, so I'm looking at this visual, this piano with these chandeliers and tables. Again, the lighting's epic, beautiful colors. Talk to us a little, the rose doors. Talk to us a little bit about that pink piano and the inspiration behind this setting.
Yeah. That room was designed by my business partner and lead interior designer, Miranda Cullen. She's a genius with inside stories. We wanted it to feel comfortable, but glamorous. We don't want people to feel out of place, but we want it to be approachable, but we want it to also feel like a special place that you're spending your time in. We wanted it to be timelessly beautiful, that you could photograph it, anytime 100 years ago or 100 years from now, and it would still hold up to some sort of standard. And that piano, that Steinway piano, it's I can't believe it made it here before Cirrus did. We thought that we were gonna have to open with it. We actually, in the beginning, we bought a black one to have because we thought we were gonna be open so soon. Joke was on me on that one. And the pink one came, but it's the only pink Steinway model Stereo B in the world. It's a player piano. It does this wonderful thing. Like, I don't remember what the exact name is, but it's a type of casting. So if someone was performing at the Steinway Music Hall in Brooklyn, and any Stereo B can cast exactly what that player is playing. So it's really incredible piece of technology and musical instrument. We really decided to do that. Music was always a really important part of the discussion. We decided to go with a piano based on my background. I went to school for opera singing. I love music. And I wanted the music to be as unoffensive as possible to any ears. We actually have a rule in the brand of Cirrus called the Nana rule. And that rule says that whenever we decide to do something new with the company, if Nana won't go, if we do it, we won't do it. So when considering like the music and the vibe in the background, it's very much in consideration of that as well. And the reason we chose a Steinway was honestly in hopes that we could get into Architectural Digest one day.
Awesome. I mean, what thought and intention going into curating a setting, right? I've seen a lot of lounges in my work, and a lot of them are still just couches in the corner in a dark room with an ashtray, right?
Yeah.
So this is really, really, now you mentioned this a little bit, but how are you balancing the luxury aspect with keeping it welcoming and inclusive and relatable for other people, for newcomers? And I also want to ask about that kind of smoking component. You know, I believe the future is really low dose, non-inhalation. I mean, for this new wave of cannabis evolution and access.
Yeah.
So how are you balancing that with the main room when it comes to the inhalation side, as well as just the curation and making sure that you're able to meet the moment with whoever's in front of you?
Yeah, I would say in answer to the first question about how you keep it accessible for me, it's a luxurious environment, but we're not doing, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Cherry Creek. We're not doing Cherry Creek pricing, which would be like upper echelon pricing for the city of Denver. We don't do that. We are doing approachable Denver pricing. So I think that that's how we really meet people where they're at for that. We're not an experience for the elite. We're an experience for everyone to come and feel like they are part of a beautiful experience. And then as far as the inhalation aspect goes, we do have a state-of-the-art ventilation system. It cost me nearly $250,000. And I agree with you. I think, you know, I've actually always said, Brian, this is funny. I say smokeless inhalation is the future. I don't know what that looks like exactly yet, but I think we're well on our way to figuring that out. And there always are going to be people who are going to feel uncomfortable around the environment of smoke. So that is a bit of a bridge, a bit of a gap for us to bridge. I think that is part of it that's going to come with time and come with learning. But by not only the ventilation system, but by saying, okay, we don't allow joints, we don't allow blunts, we don't allow anything that constantly smokes that's just going to fill the air. We only allow like intentional consumption through glass that will immediately be filtered out. The hope is that Nana will never have to walk into a smoky room.
Right. I love the Nana rule. That's a great grounding principle.
Exactly.
So how are you approaching, I want to ask how you're approaching talent and curating your calendar. I'm really curious when I look at this Cirrus calendar in 6 months from now, you know, what does it look like? And how are you approaching the energy and the vibe and that you're bringing in there? And so please share what you can about that.
Well, my hope is, fingers crossed, that we'll be on a wait list for the first year and just be repeating that same perfected experience for a year so that we are perfecting the business model behind it so that we can go off and expand. I know we'll be at least doing that for 3 months as of right now. I think by the time we open it should be up to 6 months, hopefully. I would like to do the same thing every day for a year.
Okay. Yeah. Fundamentals, right? Get that core competency model just nailed to the ground.
But we did actually on Wednesday nights. So we're only going to be open Thursday through Sunday right now. On Wednesday nights, every other week, we're going to have a members only event. So we've been tossing around some really exciting ideas about that. One I'll share with you that came up a couple weeks ago that I thought was a great idea was debates. like,
Mhm.
like educated debates, or even debates about topics that don't matter. And just, having people who want to participate and be debaters on stage. Like, I just think that would be, you know, cannabis in this environment, it's not like a rock concert where everybody's screaming for excitement, right? It's like how can you hold the attention of this group of people who are in a giggly, uplifted mood? And approaching that and figuring out what works best for that has been really fun.
Debates. That's an interesting, what comes up for me is there's a really interesting history to debates and cannabis legalization, which
Okay.
probably is another conversation another time, but provoking thought, right? And having meaningful conversation and human to human interaction.
Right.
But I think this is part of the exciting part of cannabis and how it's so different than alcohol bars or other intoxicants and drugs and however you want to speak to it, because it really has this flexibility to create different types of conversations and spaces. So
Right.
that's exciting to think about, that to even know that you're really unpacking, and for sure excited to see what Cirrus puts on stage and kind of brings forward in the spirit of evolution.
You kind of touched on like basically our mission statement, essentially, which is to get have groups of people having new conversations in a new environment. Like, that is the whole goal. Like, I truly believe the world would be a better place if everybody had weed once in a while. And so my goal is to get like generations of adult family members, to have new conversations around a new table,
Especially, I mean, the timing is perfect for bringing this forward, of course,
Right.
For all the reasons we know.
Right.
So let's talk about that vision. I mean, how do you see Cirrus really fitting in to the future of the cannabis travel trend as it evolves? What the leaders of travel, what are they saying when they're describing the role that Cirrus played in moving the needle forward as an experience economy?
The blueprint, not just the blueprint because we did it and it worked well, which it hopefully will. Because I don't think people should copy our blueprint of everybody should open a beautiful lounge with flowers everywhere and a pink piano. I don't think that is what I mean, but I think we've really nailed down the business model and the operational model of how to do this, how to do it successfully, how to grow and expand. Again, I don't know if it will work. None of us know, but I think my background in restaurant and hospitality, the value that we're going to be bringing people, that is what's missing from the cannabis lounge thing. And I think Cirrus should hopefully pivot a bunch of people's mindsets around, we can go get a different demographic. If we just do this and this and this, and people will come other than, these high potency seeking stoners who just want a place to go hang out. I think you can take the model of what Cirrus is and you can put it in a sports bar and it'll work. You're pivoting the look and you're pivoting maybe what the staff says, but you're not, and maybe the way that they look and dress, like the uniform might be different.
Yeah.
But the essentials of the model are the same. And in that way, I think that people will think that we're the blueprint. And in a larger scale, hopefully something like what Hard Rock Cafe was in the 90s,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you're hitting on is just a different brand, look, and feel, but all the building blocks, right, and processes and business model approach.
Right.
Well, do you have future plans for Cirrus? Is that the goal, is to just crack open the key destinations and grow this brand and this experience?
Major locations in major cities across the globe. I want to be known as the place where people go to sesh with the people that they care about.
Awesome. Well, let's talk real quick about, congratulations, your phase 1. You just hit a milestone with raising and funding. Why don't you speak a little bit to that, and then also what opportunities there are for phase 2?
Yeah, phase 1 was something we started a year ago, and the goal was to raise enough to do, basically a MVP, like minimum viable product, to prove the concept that it will work. And the goal of that was 2.35 million, which we finished last Friday at a private investor event that we threw. We'd got $650,000 that night, which was incredible. Now that we are 3 to 4 months away from opening, and we have all this traction of this wait list and these gift cards and memberships. I don't want to open with the minimum viable product anymore. I want to open with the product. And so we've opened up a phase 2 of funding, which will be our final phase of funding if everything goes according to plan, aside from real estate stuff we do in the future. But for the operational business of Cirrus Social Club, this is it. And we're raising another $650,000 for basically 9% of the company. And that's going to go towards doing it the way that we wanted to do it. So getting the furnishings that we really want, getting the wares that we really want, doing some marketing and PR work. We haven't spent $1 on marketing and PR work, and we have all of this success so far. Imagine what we could do with a little bit more gas behind us. And finally, Brian, I'll be honest with you and everybody watching, I would like to get paid. I've been living off my savings for 2 years, and we're going into this. And, I think I would like to get myself a modest salary so I can really continue to focus on this job ahead of me.
Yeah. Seems fair. Seems like it makes sense. I mean, all the work and sweat you've put in, and you've been so transparent about sharing your journey with the cannabis industry, especially, which kind of takes me to my 2 last questions. The cannabis travel audience is very different than the cannabis consumer audience. For example, the latest data from this year shows that 24% of the cannabis travel audience don't consider themselves cannabis consumers, but when they're on vacation, they're interested in having an experience, being a stranger in a strange land, and having a really meaningful experience in a cannabis setting. Obviously, I do a lot of work with the travel industry side, and I'm curious, I look at you as an attraction that's groundbreaking and going to be a case study on an inflection point in the experience economy as the travel industry talks about it, right? So new kind of experience that's going to be marketable. It's going to be part of the Denver brand.
Yeah.
And you have integrating with that destination brand and as a member on the wheel alongside hotels, airports, rental car companies, attractions, business meetings, conferences, events, and all of that ecosystem of tourism. How much do you look at yourself as a travel business versus a cannabis business? And how do you kind of walk that line versus an experience economy business? I'm just curious about your psychology when you look at your business with Cirrus.
I honestly don't think of myself as I honestly don't think of Cirrus as a cannabis business anymore. I did for a long time. And after pitching it to cannabis investors and cannabis business owners, I've realized how much I am doing something. I'm running a different business than they are. It is a different business. It's a different end goal. It's a different approach. It's just different. Like, there's no one who's been in cannabis for the last 10 years whose experience is what mine is, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, this is not something that is the same. So I almost don't see us as a cannabis business. At the same time, I see us as one of the most important cannabis businesses ever, if that makes sense. Like, if I go to Benzinga, I'm not talking about the same thing anyone else is talking about. But at the same time, in 10 years at Benzinga, I think that this industry of hospitality will be the biggest money swingers in the industry, to be honest with you, because brands are going to need this avenue to get recognition that they need and get their products on higher places and shelves. Dispensaries are turning into respectfully glorified liquor stores, and we're learning that it really just comes down to location, and that's pretty much all that there is to a dispensary. So I don't think of I try not to think of us as one because it's so different than the world that's existed for the last decade. And at the same time, I think we're one of the most important ones. When I look at customer demographic, I do think tourism is probably a good 40% of what we should be expecting for Cirrus Denver, especially. When we talk to people, when we're out at events, they're like, oh, when this person comes to town, I'll take them. Or when this relative comes to town, I'll have to take them. A big pull for what we say is it's not for the local people around Cirrus to come every week, though we do have benefits for the people who live around Cirrus to get better access or more affordable access because it's theirs. It's for everyone in the city of Denver and everyone that comes and visits the city of Denver to come 2 to 3 times a year. So I do see tourism as a pivotal, important thing, as Hard Rock Cafe would have been, right? Like, you're talking a major location in a major city. You didn't even go to the city if you didn't go get the T-shirt from Hard Rock Cafe. So It's a pivotal, huge, important piece of it. Experience economy, from an operational standpoint, that's what we are 100%.
Yeah, and it's been fascinating because even since 2010, if you look at the different strategies, models, and disciplines between between products and services versus experiences, you know, that the appetite of consumers and visitors is really spending time. Time is the currency. Getting people inside, having an amazing experience, and spending time, which translates to dollars spent. But it's that set and setting and the information and experience delivered, and that time is the currency that translates to dollars. And I can't wait to see what you do. I am such a fan, and I have so much respect for kind of the path that you're kind of carving out with this model. How can listeners connect with you and learn more about Cirrus Social Club?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Brian. That was very kind of you to say. I also am a fan of yours and all the work that you're doing, especially for tourism. And any opportunity to get to talk with you or have Cirrus on your mind is an honor. So thank you for having me here today, and thank you for saying that. If people want to follow along, they should first join our wait list at cirrussocialclub.com, or you can Google Cirrus Social Club. It's spelled CRRUS. It's a type of cloud. And you can also follow us on Instagram at Cirrus Social Club. If you'd like to follow me, I would recommend LinkedIn, Arend Richard, AREND Richard, and Instagram as well. Same handle, Arend Richard.
Thanks, Aaron. Thank you for being here. This is Travel Tuesday, part of the Beard Bros Media Network at the intersection of culture and industry. I'm your host, Brian Applegarth. Thank you for joining us today, everybody. We'll see you again next month for the next episode of Travel Tuesday. Take care, Aaron.